Okay, so what I wanted to do today is I wanted to play around with how to complete this intake assembly. So what I did is I stole an assembly from, I think, our last year's robot. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to take this guy and mount it on a base. And I conveniently left two parts out. They're duplicated on each side. So to show you what those look like, these two, this is the upper arm and this is the lower arm. Those are the polycarbonate parts. And what I wanted to do is to have everybody manage to make a copy of this file as a starter. That way we don't, because it took me, and I'm pretty fast at this, it took me about an hour to get this thing massaged into shape where it is now. So I didn't want to spend the whole time doing that, but I wanted to show you how I work with with variable studios and the part studios and in context drawings in order to do sort of my design work of how far out does this arm need to reach, right? Can I put something together that's close enough that I can now tinker with it and play with its dimensions to make it work for me? So, and because that's a really common thing to need to do, especially if you're starting with like the robot kit base, or you already have a base or something designed, or you at least have some initial ideas of what you want to do. So that's our goal. So what I'm going to need everybody to do is you're going to actually go grab a copy of this file and to start with, and then we're going to modify the innards of that file. That makes sense? Thumbs up, EXT LT108, ECX LT108. It must be the shop, right? It looks like a shop. Okay, so all right, so now I've told you that. So what I'm going to do is if you didn't do this last week, we're going to go to Onshape with Kevin, the directory, and hopefully you have a folder. So I know Lily's got one, Tom's got one, Steve's got one, and the rest of the team, you guys know how to create a folder? Everybody remember how to create a folder? So I want you to go into Onshape with Kevin and create yourself a little folder. We'll do that right now. More folders. Everybody remember this? So you want to go to Teams, Onshape with Kevin, into the Onshape with Kevin directory, and then do a create folder. It's up there in the upper left. Anthony, you got that? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Tell me what's wrong. It's working? All right.
Anthony is looking puzzled.
Talk to me, Anthony. Oh, you're muted.
Well, I understand the Onshape thing. I'm just trying to make you exorbitantly loud. Because we have a sound system in our shop that you can barely see, but
Okay.
the computer doesn't connect to it yet.
Oh, so you can't hear me very well.
Not for much longer.
Oh, so you're working on it though.
Yes.
So you're about to start running the CNC or the mill?
No, it's just hard because there's a lot of people in here, all slightly talking to one another. Okay, how do I find it?
Okay, I heard something connect to Bluetooth. Is that what you needed to happen?
We're working on it. We'll mute ourselves if you want to continue on.
But that's okay. Well, hey, were you able to hear? So what I need you to do is to get everybody sitting around you to go into the Onshape with Kevin directory and create a folder with their name.
Go to Onshape with Kevin and create a folder.
Go to Onshape with Kevin and create a folder. Is everybody going to do that?
It doesn't scan, Kevin. Go to Onshape with Kevin and create a folder. Go to Onshape with Kevin and create a folder.
Well, if I wish I could, yeah. I wish I had the gift of rap. I do not. I am an old white guy. I just don't. So Lily's got hers.
Gosh.
And
And what would you like
That's
in
my
the
watch.
folder?
Oh,
I have some old.
Turn off my Bluetooth. Oopsies.
yeah, we're gonna. All right, so Anthony, you
Yes.
got. Are you able to make a folder yet?
Oh. As soon as I'm done connecting it to Bluetooth, sure.
Okay,
Not to fear. I pretend to know what I'm doing all the time.
you do. Okay, so Asha's got one. Yay, and Zoe got one. Sweet.
Oh,
All right.
right.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do next. You know what? I've never actually done this as myself. So let's see what happens. I'm going over to Teams, Onshape with Kevin. I'm going into the Onshape with Kevin library. And you can see this file called 122822 intake starter. What you're gonna do is you're gonna right click that guy. And I want you to make a copy. Copy workspace.
No,
Did it work? Thunderous? Should I sing? You really don't want me to sing. All right, so you're going to make a copy of this file. And for me, it ended up putting the copy in this directory. I don't know where yours is going to go. Oh, Steve made one. I made one. All right. Steve and I can write to this thing. Otherwise, it may end up sticking it in your home directory. Tom, where did yours go? Do you know? If you can't find it, what you can do is you can click on
Mine
owned by
should be
me.
in the same place, most likely.
Yeah, it may have stuck it in your home directory because you may not have been able to write to that directory that we were in.
Oh.
But if you go owned by me, that's up here in the very upper left. And you click on that, it should show you where it is.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's not letting
Oh,
me
no, wait a
move it.
minute. Here it is. Where is
Is
it?
it like your home directory or something? That was the one thing I didn't get to test because I was driving around in the desert today. I got here late. Anthony, am I loud? Am I awesome? I am staring at the ceiling.
Kevin, my copy is still stuck in the Onshape with Kevin library.
Okay.
It's owned by you. It is modified by me, and I can't move it into my folder.
All right. Sorry about that. Here, let me do this. I can do that for you because I own it. That's why Steve, you're
Yeah.
the other person that has library access. So there. Now
Yeah,
it should be in
that's
your
why.
directory.
Okay.
How about you guys? LT101 classroom. Did anybody get success in copying that file?
I've got it. I'm just not exactly sure where it is.
Okay. Zoe, is that you, Zoe? That in the lower left? But, oh, that's a pretty good guess, I thought. So were you able to figure out where that file went?
Great question. We didn't hear you the entire time. Anthony was trying to figure out the sound.
Hey.
But we have the sound now, right?
No.
No, we're
Like you.
we're
Okay.
just closer to the laptop now.
You're just closer to the laptop. All right. So here, I'll run through it one more time because you guys are special. Why not?
Oh, thank you.
So if you go to Teams
Yes.
over here on the left and click on Onshape with Kevin, you should get something that looks like this. You got that?
Yeah.
Click on Onshape with Kevin library. See it?
Yep.
Okay. See this thing where it says intake starter?
Yes.
Right click it and do a copy workspace. And
All right.
then you can name yours, well, actually, and then just hit create copy. Then we got to go find it. Because I honestly have no idea where it's going to put it. It's going to put it in your home directory. That makes sense?
Cool.
Did you do
Yeah.
that?
Well, we copied it. Now I'm finding it.
All right, so now if you go all the way up to the upper left, see where my mouse is up here on the all the way in the upper left?
Yeah.
Click on owned by me.
Libraries, let's say for like.
And then it'll show you, it shows you the folders first. So if you
Yeah, there are like.
go down a little bit, did you end up with something that,
Yeah, we got the document.
all right, so I want you to go ahead and move that to that directory you created earlier. So you can right click it, and do a move to, and then go to Onshape with Kevin. And then you can go into the Zoe folder. In there. Actually, you just click on the Zoe folder. Their folder thing is really kind of hokey, but that's okay. You would click once on the Zoe folder and do a move here. Try that. Everybody else should be doing the same thing in your own directory.
Oh, Zoom.
Yeah, so
And the
we fixed
baloney
the other
effect.
axis. I'm just happy.
Okay.
I walked by.
All right.
Yeah, if we only want that much stroke, we can put the other one on there.
Asha, you got it.
Be loud.
That'll last just long enough for somebody to do this a couple of times.
Maybe.
Marshall, we're training here.
All right, I heard Marshall followed by something that was unintelligible.
I'll do this video.
Tom is yelling at you.
I'm not yelling.
Doing audio.
Oh, Anthony's doing too.
Oh, Anthony's,
Wait.
Anthony's coming onto his own machine there.
Well, Kevin, I really appreciate your patience. Luckily, this is all 1425 tonight, so we're not wasting anybody's time.
Other than
No
ours.
worries.
Okay, make us loud, Mr. Dick. Okay, you'll want to be.
Does it work now? Am I loud?
Okay,
Get
I
in
think Anthony's
Put
gonna.
it on.
Okay, we're gonna.
Okay. Whoops, I can't hear Zoe anymore. She muted. It's all good.
Gee, if we're gonna make it loud, Kevin, do we need to get out the paint cans?
I think they were successful.
Well, so somebody's now plugging their ears. It must be really loud. Plugging their ears. Or is Steve, was Marshall running a machine in the background?
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the convenience.
Well,
Put the speaker back on, and then you can just control your computer.
Oh, we're getting feedback. Are you guys getting feedback?
Yeah, figures.
Hi, Marshall. Anthony, your prowess
Okay.
as a sound guy is
Hello.
now in doubt.
We
Turn
put
off,
you
yeah.
on-
We put you on overhead speaker and scared everybody in the building.
Was it back?
Okay,
Everybody go on mute.
all right. So Anthony, you should probably mute because I think you're the one that's feeding back. All right. Okay, we'll use American engineer language, which is yay, I'm happy. So so Zoe, you were going to try it, and I guess I don't. If you can open the file, that's all I actually care. Were you able to open that starter file? Anybody not able to open the starter file? It's all good. So I'm going to keep going here because Lily's getting impatient with me. All right. So, hey, if you open your starter copy, you're going to find this in there. So there's an intake assembly. This is that intake assembly, and there's a bunch of other stuff. We're going to go through that kind of stuff real quick as well. But I think one of the first things I'd really like to do is I would actually like to insert a robot base to mount this thing to. And so what you're going to do is you're going to come over down to the lower left and do an insert new element. See it down there in the lower left? And so insert new element, create assembly, and that'll create this assembly 1 here. Okay. And I'm going to right click that and rename it. I'm going to call it main robot. Right.
I already found a main robot in mine
Oh, you did?
with nothing in it. Just
Oh, cool. Right, because yes, I was trying to get a few other things done. So now, you can open main robot if you've got it. All right. Does everybody have MKCAD installed? That's this thing over here,
Mhm.
MKCAD inserter. Anthony, Lily, you guys got this? Or do I need to go over how to install it? You have this.
Yep, I have it.
Lily's got it. Anthony, you've got it. All right, sweet. So we're going to insert. And by the way, I've opened, see, I've clicked on main robot. So I have the assembly menu up, or the, the assembly menu up here with the insert and stuff. That's super important. So what I want you to do is you're going to go down to, you're going to open MK extruder, inserter, and we're going to go down and find the kit apart chassis. And we're going to insert one. And we want it to be 30 inches. And we want it to be 27 and a half. And we're going to use Neo motors. And see where it says no wheels, click that off. So it should have battery mount, no gearbox, no wheels, are both unchecked. Okay, everybody good with that? And we're going to do a big old insert. Clunk. And that's going to give us this lovely configured chassis. There it is. And I am now going to do a fastened mate. See the fastened mate up here? Okay, fastened mate. And I'm going to zoom in on the back side of this guy right here. And I'm hovering sort of over the center. I like to zoom a lot. So that's why you see my screen doing that all the time. And so I'm hovering over the middle of the top of the plate. I'm going to press my shift key, and that'll allow me to select that spot. Okay. And that is the geometric center of that part. And I'm going to now zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to click this reorient secondary axis until oh, sorry, I forgot to. Okay, so I've got the mate connector. Sorry, don't hit the reorient axis. I've got to press the origin button. So now I'm going to come and I'm going to click on the origin. That's that little point right there. There we go. That's what I want. And now I'm going to reorient that axis until when I look at the front, there's the front. I look at the top, there's the top. That looks right. And all right. Everybody good? So we just fixed our base in place. All right. Now, because we're all in this file, we're going to do an insert from the current document. And I want you to come over here and click on assemblies. And we're going to click on the intake assembly. And you're going to get this big crazy looking thing here. And you can just click it there because we're going to mount it to the side of the robot. Okay. So I'm now going to fasten this thing. And it turns out that these two holes are properly spaced. See that hole and that hole over there? So I'm just going to do a fastened mate. And I'm looking at this thing and I kind of want, well, it looks like this guy here, if I fastened it to this guy over here, that's what I want to do. Okay. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to find the center of that standoff right there. And then I'm going to scroll out. And then I'm going to come over it's the hole right in front of the gearbox right there. Okay. And so that's the correct hole, but I need to flip the primary axis so that it's on. Oh, nope, I lied. I picked the wrong hole. Doofus. Okay, it's all good. See where it says connector of the spacer? Oh, no, wait. Connector of the anti-mark frames, right? Mate connector of AM. So delete that. I meant to use this hole over here. There we go. So I've done that. I do a solve. I haven't clicked OK yet. It looks like it's kind of in the right spot, but I need to reorient it because it's upside down. I'm going to reorient this guy. Secondary axis twice. There we go. Now it's sticking up. Hit solve again. Yeah, okay. That's looking like what I wanted. See that? Okay. Life's good. Good, okay. Oh, well, this didn't do anything like I wanted it to do. You just saw me try and drag this thing around. I don't know what's going on there, but it decided to orient itself funnily. It has not fully constrained, so therefore we need to fix that. Okay. There it is. So, so what I've done is I clicked on like right, that limits the number of things that could get moved. So what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to make this thing so it will extend out. Oops, I drag it around. It's dragging really hard right now because things aren't right. But you can see what we've got the start of that part already. Okay, that makes sense. How am I doing? Is anybody lost? Totally lost? Frustrated? Can't stand me anymore? Good. All right.
Doing okay, but mine came in. The collector itself was kind of situated off to one side of the vertical.
Got it. All right. Sorry about that. See, this is what happened. I was driving around the desert today and not doing my homework. So I thought, oh, I just pulled this off real quick right there at the end, and look what it got me. All right. We'll figure it out. So Tom, can you, if you click on the right button, can you get it to look like this?
Roughly. I'm going to
Kind of.
try to move it around a little bit more.
All right. All right. Life's good. I left a turd in the part studio. That's okay. We'll go. So now, so there's our, that was our sort of our main robot deal. Okay. We're now going to go over here to intake assembly. So we've got this thing sort of mounted where we want it. So I'm coming over here to intake assembly. And on intake assembly, whoop, there's the back. There's the front. Okay, so there's some geometry here. See that geometry there? And I cheated and I copied that out of the original. The original, by the way, is in the part studio for intake assembly. This is actually what we're trying to draw. And I stole this from another robot, but I wanted to show you how I would go about making these two parts, which are mirrored on the other side, and kind of get it so I can play with the dimensions a little bit. So how I'm doing this is I've got intake assembly over here, and I did a drawing, and that drawing I imported. And you can find it all the way down. If I'm over here in the instances, if I go all the way down to the bottom, see this intake geometry drawing? That has some dimensions to it and that we can adjust. And I'll show you how I did that is I did a drawing in context. What I really ought to do is do that drawing over again. Well, that's all right. We don't have a whole ton of time left. But that drawing actually exists over here in the part studio, this part studio 1. And you can see it's a weird looking drawing. If you click on part studio 1 and then do a assembly context to context 1, you should get the context from that other guy. Can everybody do that? Did that work? So you can always turn contexts on or off if they exist in a sketch. Everybody get the context? Tom, did you get it?
Nah, sorry, I'm a little behind.
Anthony, how about you? You got it? All right. So this is just a really simple geometry thing. And if I double click on this, you can see it's just a super simple drawing that defines the distance between these points, and it also defined the distance from here to here. Now these are not constrained yet. So you can see I can actually pick these things up and move them. The current constraints are the length of the lines are constrained, but the geometry isn't. And so this is how this mechanism could move. Now, turns out that these points are fixed, right? There and there. That will cause that whole mechanism up there to sort of move like that. All right. So what I'm going to do is, now I could work with just the drawings, but a lot of times it's easier when you're sort of going through the ruminations of, I think it needs to be about that long, right? I could make a part that I think is the right part, and then muck around with the dimensions later. And the easiest way to do that is actually to use this thing called the variable studio. And we have one here. And if you look, I'm going to actually right-click Variable Studio 1 and open it in a new browser tab. And the controls for Onshape are in the way. There we go. Bring this out. And a lot of times when I'm working with variable studios, I'll open them in a new window off to the side a little bit. See how I'm doing there? So I've moved these off to the side a little. And so now I can actually change these things. So you can look over here, I can actually change this to like, 9 inches and see how it updates? Or I can change it back to 7.75, which is what it was. And so that's kind of cool. Now, the cool thing about doing this in a variable studio rather than a variable in the drawing is that if I open the intake assembly in a new browser tab real quick, and there we go. We can watch it load. You can see that I can actually change the variables over here and they actually update they were supposed to update in that file as well. They didn't. I don't know. Oh, it's spinning. I have the spinning wheel of death. Hang on a sec. It worked. There it goes. So you can see it caused those points to move. So I'm going to go back to 7.75. And we're going to go back to our little guy here, and we're going to make 2 parts right now. Okay, so if you'll recall, the parts that we're making look like these round guys here. And if I isolate one, I'll isolate this guy. You can see it's a pretty simple part. It's just got a hole for a bearing and a hole for a bearing, and it's got some other random hole that I don't think we actually used on the real robot. And so that's pretty easy. So I need a spot for a bearing and a spot for a bearing and a distance between these 2 things that is upper arm center distance. So that's pretty easy. So if I go back to my part studio, there it is. So, okay. So to actually do this, I need to do a sketch up here. So we're going to do close that sketch. All right. So you can see I can now start a new sketch. Okay. So I'm in the starter copy. I'm going to start a new sketch on the front plane. And I know that I need a hole for a bearing. And I can zoom in on this. And I'm zooming way in here because I want the point, of these lines, because that defines that dimension. So if I do that, and then it turns out a bearing is 1.125 inches. Okay. So your goal right now is to draw a circle on the point where the vertexes are. Don't use the center of this hole. On that point there, 1.125 inches in diameter. Okay. And for all of you who are really quick at that, you're going to do the same thing down here at the bottom of this guy. And I'm looking for the end of the line, happens to line up with that point there, that's all right. And we want that to be 1.125, and that, because that's the hole for the bearing. Okay. And then we're going to draw another circle at the same point, like this. And let's do 2 inches for now. 2 inch. And I'm going to do another one down here. That is 2 inch. Okay. Cool. And so I've got so I've made myself a bearing hole and enough material to support the bearing on both ends. And I'm going to take a line, draw a line from here down to here. So what I'm going to do is we end up using this shape a lot in first, which is great. And the easiest way to do it is to take a couple of lines that aren't they weren't level or vertical with anything, so they're just sitting there. And then I'm going to use the tangent constraint, and I'm going to do a tangent between this guy and that outer circle. And I'm going to do a tangent constraint here. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And the same thing up here. What that does is it ensures that the line runs into the tangent point there. Okay. How am I doing? Have I lost everybody? I have. Oh, there you all are. Okay. Sorry, I had hidden you for a minute. Thumbs up. Everybody good? Good. Anthony, you happy?
I'm super behind, so I'm just watching.
Okay, no worries. Thanks, Lily. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the geometry I don't need, which is I'm going to use this trim tool. So I'm going to trim off, and I'll zoom in on it. Trim off this part of the line. Don't need that anymore. And that's just extra. I'll come down here. I'm going to trim off this guy, trim off this guy. So that's looking pretty much closer. Well, it turns out I need the hole, that center hole there. That's the bearing hole. I don't actually need this guy anymore. See that inside arc, there. Okay, so that's what we're going to make, is that part right there. That makes sense? Everybody happy with that? All right. So in the same drawing, you're going to do those steps again. Okay. I'm going to do it really fast, but you guys are going to do that exact same thing. You're going to draw 2 bearing holes and 2 larger holes and do the tangents between them. But this time you're going to do them on this line point. See where that line intersects that line? Right there. 1.125. Pretty cool. There's another one. 1.125. And all right. Oh, and then I need to do another circle down here that's going to be just diameter. Okay, cool. Come up here and do this guy too. 2 inches in diameter. And then we need to be a little careful on this because see how these guys, this line somehow has a vertical component to it. So we need to be careful with that. So when I go to draw these lines over here, I'm going to make sure that they're definitely not inferring or automatically putting in any crazy constraints, because I don't want any constraints on these lines yet. So I'll just make they're definitely at an angle and they're not lining up. Like this would infer, see how it inferred that. I have a touch screen, sorry. It had tried to infer a horizontal mate over there, but don't let it infer any mates. All right, so now I'm going to do tangent constraint trick on this guy and that guy, that guy and that guy, that guy, and that guy. All right, we go trim off the fat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I will now pause. Thumbs up if you're caught up with me already. Pause there.
One little note about that tangent trick.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that your lines extend well enough past the circle.
Oh,
that
thank you. Yes.
When it goes tangent, you can actually grab those outer parts.
Yeah.
Because if it's close enough, it might look like it connects with the circle.
Yep.
But it's actually overlapping, and you got to dial in really far to get that little piece of scrap.
Yep. And so that, yeah, always leave plenty of tail out here, is what Tom is pointing out. I should have done that, but that's a great point. If your line comes up short and you do a tangent, it'll attach itself over here somewhere, and it's hard to screw around with. So,
Well, what's even worse is when it looks like it actually is tangent,
and
but
it
there's
isn't.
just a tiny little tail. And when it's like that, you can't take out the inner portion of the circle.
Yep.
You can't trim that part.
All right. Hey, so your sketch should look something similar to that. Okay. So we're going to hit the check mark. And now we're going to extrude. And so if you come up here to extrude, now we're using 1/4 inch polycarbonate, which is not a 1/4 inch thick. Sorry, it just isn't. But that's okay. So we're going to make a new parts, so solid news, and they're going to be 0.22 inches thick, believe it or not. And then I'm going to click in faces and regions to extrude, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go here. And you can see in the lower left here, it was able to figure out that, well, these two parts don't touch each other at all. So we're going to get two parts out of the deal. So we got two solid bodies out of the deal, and so that's what we wanted. Right, there they are. Two fabulous solid bodies. It tends to color by default things automatically to different colors, so you can tell they're two different parts. That's kind of a nice touch. All right, now, real quick, we're going to come down here to part 1 and part 2. I'm selecting both of them. We're going to right-click and do an assign material. Right-click, assign material. And in where it says none, you want to type in polycarbonate. Good. All right. So that will assign the material properly, so the weights and stuff work out. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to do the edit appearance for both parts. So I'm editing both parts at the same time, and I always like to use a nice silvery color. And if they were aluminum, that would be a splendid color to use. But they're clear plastic. So here's the trick. That's what this alpha channel thing is. And if you actually take this alpha channel thing down to about 20% or so, you end up with nice, clear plastic parts that you can see through, just like the real thing. Look at that. That's pretty slick. And you can actually change, you can actually tint.
Yeah,
So
you need the tinted polycarbonate so you can tell all the parts apart.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can actually change the tint. So if you want to do a turquoise or a blue or something like that, you can do whatever you'd like. I
This
have
is 1425, has to be red.
Has to be red. All right. So there's a nice red polycarbonate tint, right? So that's kind of a nice touch, because you can actually buy material like this. I happen to think that the silver looks pretty nice. I've tried using white before, but white, it doesn't work right. It doesn't look right to me. So I like the silver. Anyway, there you go. So there they are. And now, before we do anything else, we need to decide what their names are. So I'm going to call this I'm going to come and rename them individually. This is now the upper intake arm. And by a sheer coincidence, this is actually going to be the lower intake arm. Okay. So there they go. Pretty cool, huh? And now I can go back to my assembly, hitting this button here. Okay. There it is. Oh, well, I guess what I need to do is I would like to insert a couple of those guys. So if I go insert part studios, and here's part studio 1, and there's lower intake up arms, right? So I'm going to need 1. Well, actually, I need 2 of each. So there's 2 of the lowers. There's 2 of the uppers. Okay. Cool. Now, if I showed you, if you remember, these guys actually use bearings. So what I need to do is I actually need to insert bearings into here. And you can go to MKCAD and go to bearings. And believe these guys will allow us to do 1/2-inch hex. I think it'll allow me to do these. See that guy right there? I should be able to insert. There it is. It inserted it at the origin. That's okay. And it turns out I'm going to need a bunch of these, so I'm going to go with 8, right? Yeah. So I can highlight this guy and I can hit Control C. I can click off of it, and then I can hit Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. There's those 4, Control V, Control V, and Control V. There we go. All right. Now, if you look at, did they give us a good insert point? They did. So these guys come with a mate already. That was nice of them to do. See that mate is on the correct plane. So it will mate. That is this mate. That circle's mate right there. So that's pretty convenient. And I guess we can insert them into these holes. Super sweet. All right. So we'll do a, well, I guess it's going to be a fixed mate because we don't want them to move. We'll take that guy and put it in that hole. And let's make sure does it look like it inserted properly? It does. Look at that. All right. So we'll solve that. I can close this, by the way. And we'll mate that one with that one. Okay. So you get the hang of this. We'll do that really fast. Cool. A little trick for you. You get all these little mate targets. If you actually highlight one, right click it, you can do hide all mate connectors and they will all go away. So that's pretty convenient. All right. So at the beginning, let's just muck around with one side and then we'll end up putting the other side on here in a minute. So I would like, if I go zoom in on where these arms go, here's one of them. And again, it turned out we needed spacers and stuff. So I did us a favor and left the spacers in place, but I took the bearings out. So we're going to put a bearing here. Okay. But for the upper control arm, one bearing goes there. And the other bearing goes on this thing up here. See that? So that means I should be able to take one of these guys and do a revolute mate on. See how I'm grabbing the very outer thing, and it picked that. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. And then I'm going to go find that one is going in this upper arm up here. And I'm going to let it rub on this spacer. So I'm just going to select the edge of that spacer like that and see how it moved the bearing, because that's what we clicked on down there. And so that's it, that's in the proper space. So if I hit the solve button, it'll actually bring the whole piece up like that. And there it is. Okay, so we like that. I'm gonna hit the green check mark. And now I'm going to go up here. If I close the Revolute thing, it turns out that this is not really attached up there, right? So this is one of those cases where you kind of have to look at what you're attaching to, and sometimes you have to like cheat a little bit. And so there's a spacer in here. See that spacer? I'm going to swing this out of the way. And I know that we're going to pick this face up here, and we're going to mate it with this face over here. So that's the plan. So I'm going to do a revolute mate between the edge of that spacer, because that's the face that's going to rub. And I'm going to do that to the face of bearing. Oops, kind of like that. Just able to solve that. Oops, solve, hit OK, and it should have worked. I'm going to pop down here. It's gotten mad at me. It got mad at me for a few things, and I haven't figured out why yet. I'll have a look. It got mad at these revolutes. Okay. And which caused all of these guys to be mad as well. I haven't figured that out yet. So usually what I'll do is I'll go, okay, well, was it just one of them created the error? Yeah, it was just one of them created the error. It was the mating of these two. A lot of times that means that something didn't get put in plane exactly perfect. So I'm guessing that I did this revolute one down here. I probably am off a little bit up here at the top. And this is just one of those things that you have to kind of go muss around with a little bit. Let's see, what do we got? This whole thing does move. Okay, so that's good. Let's see if we can get this thing to line up again. So rather than using a revolute mate, which requires the two faces to actually touch each other perfectly, by the way, I'm going to use what's called a cylindrical mate on the other side, and that'll allow the z-axis to be off just a little bit. So we're going to try that. The original CAD drawing did not use MK CAD. And so my guess is that the dimensions of our spacers were off a little bit. All right.
I was able to get two Revolute mates to work.
You were. All right. Oh, well, now I got my cylindrical mates to work. So you were able to do this as a revolute. Let me try it.
Yeah.
No, mine doesn't like it. I don't know why.
Can you scroll out? Let me make sure I connect it to the right place.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that looks right.
So I guess there are times when stuff doesn't line up exactly perfectly, and so so I guess what I was showing you was a lot of times if it worked on one spot and not the other, there's probably some plane error, and it doesn't have to be off by more than 1,000th of an inch before it doesn't work. So one of the solutions to that is to look up here. So a revolute mate only allows motion around the z-axis. A cylindrical mate allows rotation around the z-axis, but sliding along the z-axis as well. So that's
when you slightly loosen the bolts so that the thing all fits together.
That's exactly right. It's exact correct analogy to that. All right, so we'll do a cylindrical mate. Yours may have worked, mine didn't. Don't know why. Okay, so now you can see we have more constraint on the motion of this thing, because that piston only moves about 3 or 4 inches. I think it might be 3 inches. But now it's starting to look a lot more like what you would have expected. All right. Hey, teams, let's go find one of the, so that was the upper control arm. I just did that too. Let's go grab the lower arm. And we're going to basically do the same thing. It's going to attach here, and it's going to attach here. So I'm going to go do that by, I'm going to go do that by doing a revolute mate on this guy. And it goes in that little arm over there, revolute mate. Okay. If I do a solve there, the part showed up, cool. And now I'm going to come up here and, well, I will try for a revolute, although let's see what happens. I'm going to use the outer edge, and I'm going to use this guy. Solve it. Okay, got pissy at me. See it? You can see how it turned red, all red in my face over here. That's unfortunate, but you can change it right here. I can just change that to a cylindrical, and it loves me again. All right. So now if I look at this guy from the, I guess it's on the front over here. So here is now my fully constrained, operating arm, right? So this guy, yeah, all right. Now, one of the reasons that we ended up using the variable studio over here is it would allow me to come over here and change variables and those variables are in those sketches, right? But that's kind of unfortunate because then I'd have to go edit that sketch. Or with the variable studio, I can actually just change the length of those parts. And in theory, you can see it turning over here. It's usually a lot faster than that, but I'm in demo mode. But we should see this guy automatically update itself. It should have, there it goes. Whoops, 9 inches, obviously too long. So let's go back to 8 inches. Okay, and here comes the update. 8 inches. There it goes. Anyway, so so that's pretty cool. And now I can actually go back to my main robot. So here it is on the robot. Uh-oh. Let's see. Oh, there. Just took it a little while to update. So there it is. And this should still be movable. There we go. So now I can play with the geometries on my robot. I can if I had started by designing my own intake mechanism rather than stealing another one that was designed for another robot, I might have used the variable studio to define the distance, not only between these 2 points, but also the length of this, right? So I'd be able to change that over here. So that would allow you and really I just created a couple of dummy parts to use with this. There's all sorts of modifications that I'll need to make to those. But you can see how by using the variable studios and some in-context drawings, you're able to actually start playing with, you're actually able to start playing with the geometries of things. Okay? And I could insert a ball in here and do all the rest of those things. All right. Did this make sense? Who is thoroughly confused?
It makes sense, but mine's all kinds of broken.
Yours is all kinds of broken?
It's like somebody fell down, you know, it's a skier that came down the path the wrong way and
Very nice.
their arms
Excellent.
are kind of.
Anthony, how did yours turn out? Is it good? Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Tom, do you mind share the screen real quick? Let's take a look, see if it was something simple.
Yeah, sure. Oh, and you're right about the cylindrical. When I went to the other side, I had to change them to cylindricals. Let's see, share screen. Sorry, I'm used to Teams at this point.
Oh, no worries.
Oh, share screen, the big green button right in the middle of the bottom.
Yeah, it's hard to miss it.
So are you seeing my
Oh yes. Oh, it's lovely.
my damaged skier? So this, well, first of all, bear with me, my mouse has issues, but so it seems like I'm locked, right? Like maybe if I could just get it past this this bend point. So maybe what I need to do is detach these points here, rotate everything up, and then reattach.
I think that's probably the best move. And so what you should be able to do is if you go to your intake assembly, and I believe if you go all the way down to the bottom, let's go find your mates. So cylindrical, so those are good. So you're
Yeah.
happy with those. So let's go up to that one right there and right click it and suppress it.
There you go.
And then you can go to the other side. There you go, and do a suppress. Now you should be able to, oh, actually now go back to intake assembly. You're probably, because you kind of need to fix it in intake assembly first.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Whoops, so intake assembly, that one, there you go. All right, and,
So here it looks okay.
oh, there it looks okay. Okay, yeah, all right, so cool. So now go, all right. So now go reassert your, go unsuppress them.
Let me go back here. Let's just make sure. I mean, does this, except for the fact that these are supposed to be up like this.
Yeah, put them up there. That might help.
Oh,
All
wait
right.
a minute. What the heck's going on there?
That's cool. Let's let it, we'll let it roll for a sec. All good.
That's a little off.
Okay, so now go unsuppress those. Okay, so now go back to your main robot. Okay, there you go. Sweet. All right, hey, so team, you just saw something really, really useful. The really, really useful thing is that sometimes when you're dealing with assemblies, especially when they have the ability to bend backwards, to hyperextend, you sometimes get stuck. And the correct way to fix that is to go suppress the thing that you think is causing problems, just suppress the mate, move it all back kind of where you want it to be and redo it. The way these programs evaluate the motion is that they literally keep recalculating as you're moving things down, and it will eventually say, oh, you can't go any further. However, this is also a valid state, starting state, and it won't let you go that way, right? So it's kind of like, there are two solutions to the curve on the way down. So if you suppress it, move things back in, and then, but you don't have to delete it. You can just go suppress the mates and move stuff to where you think it should be. Okay. How'd it go? The important thing is, does Zoe still like me? Okay, good. Yeah, good. I haven't seen Zoe for a while. I assume she was out there somewhere. All right. Who's got questions? who needs help getting, who didn't finish and needs help? Don't be shy.
I didn't finish at all.
You didn't finish it all? Okay, no worries. Can you, you want to show, can you show us your screen? Is that possible?
I cannot. I'm using my iPad for the Zoom meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay. I've never run it on iPad, so I don't know tricks or stuff. So it's all good.
Oh, I'm doing the Zoom meeting on my iPad and the Onshape on my Chromebook.
Okay. Well, I'll bet if next time you're with Tom or Steve, they can help figure that out.
Okay.
They're pretty smart. Okay. Well, I ran a little overtime. Oh, Zoe wants to ask a question. Go ahead, Zoe. Go ahead. I'm a very mean man. Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted. Unmute. Still
Okay.
muted?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, well, I think Asha and I had some trouble at the very beginning. Like we followed along, but when we imported our intake assemblies, we didn't import any of the facets. So our whole assembly, it's just kind of one big mess.
Really cool.
And so everything can just be individually moved around. And so
show me your screen, can you?
we cannot. Yeah, we're working off of different laptops than the one we're on. Kind of like Lily.
Okay, no worries, no worries. All right. So when you what you said when you imported your so you said when you imported was it the robot base or the intake assembly?
The intake.
Oh, okay. So here, 99% certain I know what happened. In the main robot, if you did an insert intake assembly.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Here's what you need to do is you actually wanted to click on assemblies.
Oh, well, there you go. That'd be it.
Yeah. And because what you ended up with was this looking thing over here, this big, messy, ugly, and now all this stuff moves all over the place on you.
Yeah, that was the.
Yeah. I'm desperately trying to get Onshape to change a few things. One of them being make it so that you can hide part studios for importing stuff. So anyway, yeah, what you did wrong was the clicking on the assemblies. Sorry about that.
No worries. We followed along with everything else. So
Okay, that's good. So hopefully it all made sense. So the other fun thing that I had to do to make this whole thing work, by the way, in case you ever end up doing this. So intake assembly, I exported as a parasolid all of this from another robot, and then so it turns out that the cylinders that we're messing with, see all of this stuff, these are actually a bunch of parts. In fact, I think there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate parts. And so in order to get this thing to work, so this intake assembly are all individual parts. And so if and you don't need to follow along too closely on this, but I'll just show you what I needed to do to make this so that you guys could use it. Is here I've got a new assembly started. And if so I took and I did insert the intake assembly, this, and then I said, well, this part, this part, this part, and this part, I'm going to delete because we're going to make new ones, right? But the problem is the rest of this stuff is all loosey-goosey bits and pieces. And so what I did is I actually rotated this guy. I need to just download it. and this is really useful sometimes when you're importing a part from somebody else, is to realize what's interesting to be full motion and what is just a bunch of parts that need to stay together. And so I realized that there's this part that's holding all of the base stuff. So I took and I drew a circle out or a thing out like this. And I thought, hey, you know what? I would like to group all of those parts. So, and if I group them right now, that actually would work. But I don't actually want to group the cylinders, because the cylinders, there are 3 parts that need to be able to move at the moment. This entire assembly up here, base, and the cylinders are all need to be independent because they are going to move in relation to each other. So you can see what I did is, so I'm gonna start over so you can watch very carefully how I went about doing this. Is I thought, well, if I rotate this kind of like that, so I can actually draw a box, that will allow me. So if I draw a box from upper left to lower right, what that says is that anything that is completely surrounded by the box is going to get selected. And you can see I screwed up there. That isn't really what I wanted, so I'm going to do that again. I can also do it by doing group. And so I want to select all of those parts. There we go. But I really don't want, I want the end of the cylinder to not be there. So I'm going to click on that to turn that off. So now you can see the cylinder is independent. And then over on this side, I want to do the same thing. I don't want that cylinder thing. All right. So there is one full grouping right there. I like it. Okay. So I'm going to hit the check mark. Cool. So now what I want is I want to kind of do the same trick with the top. So I'm going to do a group, and I'll move this guy out of the way. And I would like to group everything up here that isn't in the lower part. There we go. And now what I need to do is I need to go over here and say, well, except for this cylinder part, you click on it to turn it off, and just in the clevis up there. And I think you do the same thing over here. There it is. There's the clevis. There's the top. All right. So there's my second grouping. Okay. So I now have these 2 grouped parts. And so if I look at it now from the side here, theory, I should be able to drag the base apart. I should be able to drag top apart, and that sort of helped me isolate the cylinders. Okay. So then what I did is I said, oh, okay, well, wouldn't I really like to grab all of these guys and I grabbed all of those guys, and now we need to go find them in this parts list. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts, turns out. And I can right click these guys and I can do a move to new subassembly. And so what I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, the cylinder, I would like to make a cylinder because we're going to use it in 2 places. Okay, so I did a move to new subassembly, and you can see it's creating it down here. And so there are all the cylinder parts. Now remember, these are just a loose collection of parts. But again, this is something you do all the time when you're importing stuff. And what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to mate all of this stuff together. So I see that there's there's a cylinder with a cylinder rod on the inside. So that's gonna want that to be able to slide around, because in addition to those 2 fixed parts, this is a part I need it to be able to move. Otherwise, it's not going to work really well. So I've got that part, and I've got this clevis up here, and I've got an end, okay, and I have a cap, and I have a body. All right. Well, we know that this is attached to this and attached to this. So one option is to just group those guys. I'm going to do that. They'll never move in relation to each other. So those are all now grouped. So that worked pretty good. And it turns out that, well, this guy and this guy, I'd like to be able to I could group them, but there's also a chance that these parts might need to twist a little bit. So that made me realize that I kind of want to do a revolute mate on this guy, a revolute or a fixed mate between these two. Oh, actually, yeah. Oh, actually, I can group these. Now I'm going to take it back. I'm making this up as I go. This part and this part can also be grouped because you'll see they'll be able to move later. So here I'm going to group those guys. So there's group 2. Okay, so they should now move as a unit. All right. So there's the inside of the cylinder, back and forth, just like that. All right. I'm going to move it back real quick. Sometimes when you, sometimes I like to know what the dimension was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to measure distance from here to here. And I can find it down here, 0.354 inches. See that down there? That's the distance from this little groove. There's a snap ring edge there and the nose of this 0.354. That's that may be important in just a second. Okay, so well, now I want to define a mate so that this guy moves in and out on that axis over there. So I'm going to go and do a slider mate. Seems like a good one because it'll slide, but it won't allow the rod to rotate like it would in real life. A cylindrical mate would allow it to slide and to rotate. So I think that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use a cylindrical mate, and I'd like to do a cylindrical mate between, whoops, I'm going to use the nose of this because I took a measurement off of earlier. So I'm going to use that circle, and I'm going to use actually this ring up here, center of that. Okay, so there it is. So now I've defined a cylindrical mate. Now, one of the things that I need to do is I need to pay attention to the fact that it doesn't go all the way in reality. So with these things that move like this, you can use limits. So the cylindrical mate and the slider mate both allow you to specify the minimum and maximum. So I'm going to turn on limits here. And if you'll remember, the minimum was going to be 0.354 because I measured that earlier. And that's the wrong direction. So I'm going to go minus 354. Is that right? That's it, right? What do I want? Maybe it was 0.354. Oh no, 0.354 is the maximum. And the minimum is going to be minus 3.354. Let's try that. And no, that isn't it either. All right. Hang on a sec. Oh crap. All right, let me start that again. Sorry. Let's go with, I think it matters which side you actually pick first. So I'm going to pick that side first and this side second.
Yeah, the help says something about the first one is the fixed point and the second one is the sliding.
Yep. And
I had a very similar issue trying to set limits on one of my mates.
Yep. All right. So now I've set the limits, and I believe this is a 3-inch stroke. It could be a 4-inch stroke. We'll find out in a sec. Now, one of the cool things you can do when you're playing with these limits here is you can actually hit this play button. And it will show you the full range of motion. So here's the full range of motion. Well, I think it's supposed to be a 4-inch cylinder. Try that. Solve that. There we go. Yeah, I think it's a 4-inch cylinder, and actually, yeah. All right. So now, there we go. So what I did, again, going back to what I started on earlier, is I did a group of all of these parts because I don't need them to move in for what I was working on. I did a group of all of these parts, didn't need them to move, right? But then I wanted to take these cylinders, and I do want them to operate, okay? So, so I made a sub-assembly out of them, and I did a couple of groupings, which works fine, and I did this mate, and I should actually be able to rotate. Let's see, I'm just going to fix this body real quick. I should be able to rotate. See, it slides and it'll turn if I need it to turn, which is what it would do in real life. Okay. All right. Unfix that. So there we go. So I'm going to go back to this assembly. And so this is the big assembly. It's got tons and tons of parts. And they're all grouped. And I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom because, or I'm actually, what I'm looking for is this assembly. So there's an assembled rod, a piston. And so this got converted to an assembly. This is a pile of parts. See, you can see the individual parts up here. There they are. And there's probably a couple other parts. I don't want that anymore. I'm going to go ahead and delete all those. And I'm going to take this guy, make a copy. So now I've got 2 cylinders. And these 2 cylinders, you can see they'll operate. See how they're now movable parts, okay? And so these are what these I would now attach to the studs that they belong to. So I'm going to go grab. I'm going to do a revolute mate because they need to turn on. Revolute mate on. It's being a pest. There we go. Come on. There, revolute mate on that. And I'm just going to use the center of this. There we go. And you can see I need to flip the primary axis. There we go. So there it is. So there, now I've attached that there. And well, I need to do the same thing on the other side. And so I'm going and like this. Right here to this guy. And that one's set up properly, so I can hit OK on that. All right. And now realize there's no connective tissue between these 2. So they will move. I'm going to actually right click on this guy and fix it in place. That way I know what's going to move. I'm going to end up moving this guy. So now we're going to attach. We're going to do a revolute on that hole and that hole. Oh, there it goes. All right. So I'll solve that. Now this is where this revolute might cause us problems, but we'll see what happens. Actually, it shouldn't. This one shouldn't cause us any problems at all now that I think about it. But this guy needs to attach where? Oh, this guy needs to attach right here. Okay. Oh, for whatever reason, we had a failure. See this? That's interesting. I don't know what happened there. Hang on a sec. So the last connection that I did broke this guy. That's interesting. Swing this guy up. All right. I broke the cylinder. I don't know why. So I'm going to undo that last thing that I did. And that was this Revolute. I'm just going to delete it. Okay, now I got my cylinder back. Something was there were not enough constraints, and I don't understand why it did that. Sometimes what you need to do is you kind of need to get it close to being in position. I did not do that last time. Okay, so I'm going to. So this is much closer now. Let's see if that will prevent it from flying to bits. That means that something isn't fully constrained somewhere, and I don't know where it is. Probably. Yeah, see how it's not liking this over here? Interesting. Let me see, change that to a cylindrical. Yep, there it goes. So sometimes things are off just a little bit, and it needed a cylindrical. And it's probably a 1/1000th of an inch error between because these two parts are actually fixed and they don't move relative to each other. So there again, that was a case where it's probably off by some yeah, well, here we go. It's off by some minimal amount. Why it's off like that, I don't know. But we loosened the bolt. I love Steve's analogy of that. We just loosened the bolt. Now it fit together. All right. So do you see how that's what I had to do to get this thing to work. Now you can see that the pistons, the pistons are pistoning, are plunging. Okay. All right. How do we do? So my goal for showing you that was you're importing a complex thing like an arm from some other robot that has nothing to do with our robot. Sometimes you have to like decompose the thing that you're importing, realize what's important to be moved. So the pistons were important to be moved. We wanted the collector arm to be floating, and we wanted the base to be fixed, or you know, right? So that's how I took the thing apart. And that's actually that's how I made this part. Yeah, pretty much. If you went through, you'd find pretty much the same things, and that allowed us to put it on the main robot. Hey, I've run way over time. I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm sure that you are tired of watching me do stuff. So
We
we good?
appreciate the help.
Zoe, is this helpful to you? Yeah.
I'm unmuted now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally. All right. Good. So, and like I say, every time I teach one of these classes, all of the drawing stuff, all of the extruding and all the rest of that, the tutorials do a really good job of that. This is the kind of stuff that it's kind of useful to have somebody go through. All right. With that, I believe it's 9:30. Well, it's 9:30 here because I'm in Arizona. So 8:30 your house. Is it snowing where you guys are yet? You guys going to get snow? Oh, Steve's muted. No snow?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be, but we're a little further south, and I don't know. Do we have a gorge wind coming up?
It looks like we're going to get a little snow. Oh, no, this isn't too bad. The forecast has improved.
Yeah.
We'll get a little snow tonight, and a little snow where I live, this means snow. I live in the foothills of the Cascades. So yay. But no snow on Friday.
They've got us in the 40s all week.
Okay.
Getting close. We're down to 34 tonight.
Oh, well, that's lovely.
But no call for snow yet, at least not in Wilsonville.
Yeah, down to 30 Thursday night. We might get a
Yeah, it was it.
smattering.
It was 39 this morning where I am, but then it was 70. this afternoon. I extended my stay by a few days. We went up to Wickenburg, which is northwest of Phoenix, and then drove out into a place called Vulture Peak, and there's a place called the Vulture Mine, and we drove for like hours in the desert, and there's nothing out there. I mean, every now and then you'd see another car, or you'd see there were a couple of houses actually, honestly, way out in the middle, but the reality, there was just nothing out there. And it was really cool. There was a lot of saguaro cactuses, Gumby, and we had a great time. So
Did you see any vultures circling above your car?
no, I didn't. You know, the only place I've ever seen vultures, my house. We have vultures. God, there must have been turkey vultures. There must have been a dozen of them. A deer or something must have died, and they were just floating around. They're huge. Oh my God.
Oh
You
yeah.
probably follow the bears for the leftovers, right?
Yeah, yeah. So if you've never, frame of mine. So my brother is a photographer. Whoops. There we go. He does a lot of wildlife photography, and he's got.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I like
Oh,
the ones on the left there.
Do you know what those are?
Which kind of chicks are those?
They're baby eagles.
They are eagles. Okay.
Yeah, they fell out of a tree. They
Very
fell
brown.
out of the nest
Yeah.
several years ago, and they were sitting on the road, and my brother. So some people found them, and my brother, being the photographer that he is, immediately jumped out of his car and took these pictures of. They're adorable. They look like something off the Muppets or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. They need appropriate Muppet style names.
Yeah, I believe.
And voices.
Yeah.
I believe this week the plushie toys have come in.
Oh yeah.
So and he actually wrote a book about them. Anyway, they're absolutely adorable. But anyway, that isn't what I
The
was.
size of those claws.
Yeah. As long as you keep the claws away from you, you're wonderful.
Exactly. So the let's see, where are the birds? Birds are birds, bald eagles, raptors.
Interesting how it looks more like fur than feathers or down.
Mhm.
Isn't it? So this guy, that is a turkey vulture.
Yeah.
Hole in his nose up there for extra good smelling stuff, and they're big. Anyway, so we had a whole bunch of those flying around. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to show you the dead bird. Yeah, here's another turkey vulture sitting in a tree. That's actually a young one. Anyway, so
Cool.
he had a really good pose. There's a face only a mother could love. So anyway, we had a big flock of those flying around our house one day. Pretty cool. Anyway, that was totally random. It's all good. Hey, I'll see you guys in a week.
All right. Thanks,
Yeah,
Kevin.
great. Thank you, Kevin.
Talk later.
Thank you.